Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Friday, the 20th of December, and we're here to talk all things Rangers, of course. The end of the week. Press conference day as well, ahead of the game tomorrow against Dundee. Joshua joins me to discuss all the latest Rangers news. How's it going, Joshua?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Yeah, all good, thank you. I'm actually coming up to the game tomorrow. Big shout out to my good friend Aldo. Yeah, big shout out to my good friend Aldo for his generosity. So I'm been heading up to the match tomorrow, so I'm very much looking forward to it. Dundee, of course. The opponents, we'll get stuck into that. So we'll hear from Philip Clement this afternoon. I'd imagine that the VAR incident will be top of the agenda and what he will be quizzed upon. But Dundee tomorrow, Joshua, I think everyone's expecting Rangers to take up 3 points on that one.
Yeah, I guess what's kind of been overshadowed understandably because of the VAR issue, which I know you and Johnny spoke about at length yesterday, something that's maybe gone under the radar a little bit, and Adam and I discussed this in our Tactics podcast, but if Rangers win that penalty shootout, or if they get the penalty that they should in extra time and win that game, then I think the narrative about their performance and where they are compared to a few weeks ago changes dramatically. And I think a lot of that comes down to the individuals on the pitch who've made a big difference to what Clement's trying to do, Derek. And it's one of the few times over this kind of run that goes back to the start of December and will go on until February and March, where there's a bit of a free midweek in between games. So expecting that Clement will go pretty full strength, although he'll have to rotate a little bit over the coming week. It's going to be interesting to see what he does at centre-back with that in mind in particular. But yeah, you'd expect to play a strong team, and I guess the expectation will be, can Rangers maybe not put on the same scoreline as they did against Kilmarnock, but can we see that type of home performance that is the words that Clement has used previously, dominant, amongst other things, when you've maybe not necessarily seen that? Can they maintain that tomorrow against Dundee and get what would be an important win?
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's get stuck in then. We will look ahead to Dundee. Yesterday, it was interesting watching that the SFA VAR review show with Willie Collum. He certainly didn't miss taking aim at the VAR team. It's fair to say unhappy with what went on with regards to the incident concerning Václav Černý and the penalty that wasn't given. Now, me and Johnny were on yesterday to give a reaction to that video. And then after that, I did say to Johnny at the time, I was expecting a response from Rangers. He wasn't sure if one would be coming, but about half an hour after we recorded that video, a Rangers spokesperson commented, and this is what the club said. Rangers FC notes the Scottish FA's admission of an officiating failure following the non-award of a penalty to Rangers in Sunday's Premier Sports Cup final, and welcomes the transparency from the Scottish FA. However, for such a failure to occur during one of Scotland's showcase matches is not only hugely disappointing for the club and its supporters, but also damaging for the credibility of Scottish football more widely. We acknowledge the Scottish FA's determination to use this and other decision-making failures as opportunities to drive improvements in officiating standards. As a club, we will continue to engage with the Scottish FA in an attempt to improve officiating standards for the benefit of all clubs in Scotland. Now, that response has come in for some criticism online, Joshua, because many feel that Rangers haven't gone far enough publicly with that. I tend to agree with them. I thought they would go more aggressive with the response, but I'm not privy to perhaps conversations that have been taking place behind the scenes. I would like to think that the club are really pressing this hard, that this cannot happen again. Listening to the audio, I was surprised the SFA released the audio yesterday, so fair play to them for that. However, it is absolutely damning. Some of the stuff that was said, it's more out than in. It's got many fans really infuriated about the decision-making process, and how the officials were able to reach a decision so quickly and without really having a look at it and properly examining what was a clear penalty kick. The Rangers response, what's your feeling on that when you've seen it?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is you can understand, obviously, people's anger. When I heard the audio for the first time, because it was obviously in the show, and I was still watching it when I saw the clip, and I didn't know if it was, authentic or
Yeah,
not, because
I know.
you
I
can't
was the
quite
same.
believe it.
Yeah.
And I think, I agree with you. I think you do have to say that it is much better that Colm. Obviously, it's small change. It's no change for Rangers and for Rangers fans who were there and watching. That he's admitted the decision is wrong, but he was pretty scathing in his assessment of it. I think you got to give our good friend Stevie some credit for what he said, which was on Monday after the initial incident, which was that if the pull had happened, if it was that blatant, it shouldn't. The referee shouldn't have actually been sent to the screen.
Yeah.
It should have just been a case that was overturned. And I can't remember the exact quote what Colm said, but effectively was it that the VAR team were not forensic enough, and obviously that is literally exactly what VAR are there for. So yeah, listen, it's a horrendous error, and you can again understand why people would then want Rangers to come out and be a bit more, aggressive in their response. I tell you what will be interesting today, Derek, will be what Philippe Clement has to say, because if you wind back to just about this time last year when there was an incident and I think it was a handball. I think it was a handball on Alistair Johnson and that
Rangers, yeah.
And there was a lot of noise around that, and Clement actually made, again, can't remember the exact comment that he made, Derek, but he effectively wanted to draw that line in the sand between being really critical of the decision, but also not letting it go further than that. And I expect that will be what he says today. But yeah, the frustration for people be seeing that yesterday, that while it is good that there's transparency and while it's good that it's been cleared up, what good does it do? Because the actual outcome should have been that Rangers had that penalty in the first half of extra time, and they obviously didn't, and that had a huge bearing on the outcome of the game.
Yeah, the problem for me is you can't stick transparency in the trophy cabinet. So I would like Rangers to really look for ways that, I don't know, can they be compensated with regards to this in some degree? I would like to see them really press the SFA. Of course, there is a big match coming up on New Year as well. And I'd imagine heading into that game, there'll be a lot of pressure on the officials, because that was totally unacceptable. Defies belief how that decision wasn't given on Sunday. But you can read everything Willie Collum had to say over on the website, folks, and you can also read Rangers' response to that as well. Moving on then to the game tomorrow, Dundee. We touched on it there. We'll probably have a predicted lineup coming out a little bit later on. Joshua will get a feeling from the manager later as to who is available. I know Oscar Cortez and Rabi Matondo featured for the B team in midweek. I'd imagine Cortez would be banging on the door for an appearance at some stage in the game. That aside, I'm just looking at the team overall. John Souttar's out for several weeks. You'd imagine it's just the Balogun proper partnership at centre-back, although I thought Dujon Sterling did well when he came off the bench on Sunday. Could that be an option? Does Tavernier keep playing in the? I think he does at this point in time. A lot of questions throughout the team. Does Connor Barron come back in? Is there an opportunity up front for Danilo to start? Selection dilemmas for the manager.
I'd definitely be starting Danilo, because I think that one of the things Rangers probably one of the areas that Egerman needs to still improve is that Danilo, as we discussed, I think the other day, gives you more of a kind of focal point in the box. You see that for his header on Sunday and his goal against Kilmarnock recently. It gives Egerman a little bit more freedom. I'd probably in this game only start one of Bayrami and Hagi. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes back to that Hagi, Danilo and Egerman trio that we kind of saw rotate on the left-hand side. Václav Černý is not going to be able to play every single game throughout the festive period. We've not seen much of Ross McCausland in the last few months at all, although it has had a few injury issues. And if we focus on the defence, Rangers will move for a defence centre back in January. I believe that's very likely. Believe a loan deal is perhaps the most likely option in that area because of the situations and the fact that obviously Souta's missing for a number of weeks. Cason Weirjo is out for a number of months. Very unlikely he'll play before the end of the season, and that's unfortunate because I think that if you look at the path he was on, Derek, there's a case that he would have been that strongest centre-back partnership with John Souttar. If you're looking across the board, what that gives you. And Dujon Sterling, I wouldn't have any concerns at all about playing him at centre-back. I think it's a testament to how good he is as a player that he can play all these multiple different positions. Because that's not he didn't know where he was coming on at the weekend. He could have been coming on at right wing, or he could have been coming on at centre-back. Very different roles, and that speaks to how good a player he is. My ongoing concern with that is that I don't think you maximise the player's development, and subsequently I don't think you maximise the player's value if he continually moves around in different positions. But I'd rather see him probably play centre-back than higher up the pitch, because those qualities, defensive qualities, translate. So that's probably the most likely short-term option. But tomorrow, I think Tavernier keeps playing, and as he should. He's been really good. Again, long term, Rangers still have a decision to make at right back because of Tavernier's age, but I don't think you can say anything other than he's been really good for the last couple of weeks against a difficult opponent in Maida. He had generally a good game on Sunday, and he's spoken himself about how tweaks in the way that Rangers are playing, and he's made this comment in a few interviews, have helped him to kind of increase his attacking input going forward. So you would expect that maybe to be the back four tomorrow. Sterling the most likely cover, but then you've also got to remember that he's the cover at right back as well. And Rangers are really light in that area going into a busy period of fixtures.
He had a good game, Joshua, but I don't want to see him heading over and taking all the corners. And I mean, we touched on that, the penalty incident. We've been talking about it all week. That was not for a right-footer at that angle of the box. That suited a left-footer. I wanted Ianis Hagi taking that. If Bonner was in the team, he'd have hit it. So I would like to see him delegate. Do you think we'll see that tomorrow?
Was that the free kick when the free kick for the foul?
He fired it way over, didn't he?
Yeah. And I guess that extends to corners. Yeah, I think that, well, as Adam and I discussed this on the tactics show the other day, is that if you look at how Rangers attack and open play, I think one of the criticisms of them at the moment, and this extends to the 4v1 moment, the 3v1 moment in Nice, and lots of other instances in the game that are highlighted in that piece and on that video, whether it be, Balogun failing to play Igaman through when he had a free run on goal at the end of the first half, lots and lots of shots from poor positions when better options were there. And it's not a case of turning around and saying, oh yeah, if you could just pause football at every single decision and say that's the better option, it'd be easy. But it's more like what's underneath it. And I think what's underneath it is Rangers they want to attack at speed. Clement wants them to shoot, maybe not on sight, but he's comfortable with them shooting from range. And I think sometimes that can have a negative effect of they don't quite have the clarity when they're playing into space. So Celtic didn't have many opportunities to play into space on Sunday, and the third goal is probably a good example when Raskin and Ridvan both make that mistake. Now there's still the foul on Diomande, but if you look at how they work that opening, I think while they didn't have as many opportunities in space as Rangers, they were able to kind of take more advantage of it. My point I'm getting around to making is I think that could extend to corners and throw-ins as well. So if Rangers are a team who are quite what's the word for it? Aggressive in the final third, and that they're not always trying to work the best possible outcome, but they're trying to attack at speed. I do agree with you that I think, I'm not saying take every corner short without an idea of what you're going to do, but I don't think you should see every single set piece slowed down for a suitable taker to get over to that position, because if that doesn't transpire in open play, then why does it need to at set plays? That would be my thoughts on the topic, but I know it is a drum you are banging at the moment. The take short
garbage. I liked. I mean, the goal. We've seen what can happen when you just take it short and quickly. Just get defenders turning. Just get the ball back in place straight away instead of allowing the opposition to set themselves up. And the more likely scenario of a ball getting curled in and nodded away at the near post, it does people's heads in, and it's time that was changed up. I noticed at the weekend, of course, Ianis on a number of occasions was looking to head over it and get it quickly put back in play and he was sort of ushered away. So let's hope that we see a bit of an improvement on that tomorrow. Some interesting points coming in just on potential team selection. Scott with the point says no Barron, but Tav to start, Danny up front and Igaman to come on at 10 as well. And CGM 55 with a point says at home against Dundee, you can play by Rami instead of Diamandi in that role. We won't, but it would work. Would it work? And do you reckon, Joshua, by Rami instead of Diamandi?
I don't know about in the Diamandi route because a lot of it's about cut. If you look at, I think he's been better in recent weeks, Diamandi. I think he was really good in the cup final. I thought it was one of his better performances. Yeah, and I think those games suits him where it's big distances. He's in a midfield 2 instead of a 3. Like, there's a big difference if he's playing on the right side of a 2-man midfield compared to the left side of a 3-man midfield, where if you take the home game against Dundee United, Derek, and you consider the picture in front of Diamandi at the weekend, he's got 4 or 5 runners. The game's being played at pace, whereas when he gets the ball against Dundee United, he's one of the highest players, and he's not really a ball carrier, is he? He wants to pass the ball and move, and so I think that right side number 8 role suits him more. What the comment suggests, if you've got a right back who'll maybe move inside a little bit more, and then you can start an extra attacking midfielder in there, then I agree that in principle could work, but I don't think you'll see Clement go away from it. And it's not 2 sitting midfielders because Diamandi will press up the pitch quite aggressively. But in games like this, I think it's individuals who make the difference, and probably be a little bit harsh for me to drop by Rami, because I think he's actually, I was thinking yesterday, scored that goal in the cup final, scored the goal away at Aberdeen. He has had a few big moments, and we've rarely seen him in that ideal position in that number 10 role. And when Hagi's played recently, although he's moved into the number 10 role, as we've discussed, he's kind of starting on the left, then moving inside the pitch a little bit more as Igaman, moves wide as well. So yeah, I'd be interested to see what Clement does, but I'd imagine he keeps rotating those type of players so that he can change things on the hour mark and change things game to game with so many games coming up, and would expect that it's Raskin and Diomande at this moment in time, with Barron obviously able to give either of those players a little bit of cover.
Yeah, looking really far ahead at the moment, Joshua. I mean, there's a comment coming in saying Diamandi's below yonder, so he's been picking up yellow cards. He's suspended for the game at Old Trafford against Man United. If the game was tomorrow,
is he?
Are you playing Barron and Raskin in there?
I didn't know he was suspended against.
The handball against Spurs. I'm sure he's. Let us know in the comments. I'm sure he's hit the threshold that he's banned for the next game.
Yeah, probably. You're probably looking at what Diamandi. Diamandi. You just told me he's suspended. Bayrami, Raskin, and Barron in that central position. And Barron's kind of, he was a player who couldn't be dropped for the first couple of months of the season, and I think it's a testament to how well he started that it took him a while to come out of the team, and I'm sure he'll go back in. This is the thing, when you have so many games, it should be a squad game over the course of the campaign. Rangers haven't had that luxury for the first 3 or 4 months. They were totally reliant on Cyril Dessers in that number 9 spot, and he's hardly had any minutes over the past few weeks, and is now firmly third choice in that position. So I think but Barron's not done a lot wrong. Maybe he's a little bit similar to Raskin and vice versa when the two of them are playing in there. Just the fact Diomande's a slightly different profile of player. He's left-footed, gives you something a little bit different. But if you're pressing me on was it January 23rd? I think that game against Man United, I'd expect that to be the midfield.
23rd of January, yeah. And they had,
I would expect that to be the midfield.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's get to some more points that are coming. Just staying with team selection, because there's some interesting comments here. Denzel, just on the issue of Tav, he says, regardless of his form, which is good at the moment, Tav skews the team. Czerny doesn't play as well with Tav. Right centre-back is pulled out of shape to cover, as is Raskin. Time to give others their turn. Is that a fair comment, do you reckon? Does Czerny not play as well when Tavernier's on that right-hand side?
It's interesting because there was a game against St Johnstone away, I think, where Czerny and Tavernier did link up quite well on the right-hand side. But generally, my instinct would be to agree with Denzo, and that I think Czerny probably plays better when he's got a little bit more in terms of pace around him. A player who can maybe overlap more frequently and allow him to move inside the pitch. And Czerny's
We seem to have lost Joshua there. Lovely freeze frame image. So fingers crossed we can get him back, but we'll crack on anyway. John says, spot on, Denzel, with your point there. So yeah, Scott B with the point. It says, against Spurs, Tav and Czerny played well, in my opinion. So yeah, we've got him back. There we go.
I was on my
good stuff.
Do you know what I did, Derek? I was on my. Sorry, I was on my phone hotspot, and then someone kept texting me, so I thought I'm gonna put that on airplane mode, and I was on my phone.
Shame on them. They should surely know
Sorry.
that you're on the morning briefing in the morning. So whoever it was, shame on you.
Yeah.
Hope it's Johnny.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's one of my friends who just has absolutely no care about it, and fair play to them. But I was saying that I think that what was it, the right back position. The thing is, like, if Sterling, in an ideal world, if Sterling and Casemiro were both fit at the moment, then I think your starting back four could have feasibly been Sterling with Casemiro at centre back. You've got Ridvan and Shefty competing at left back. You've got Tavernier and Sterling competing at right back. Suddenly it looks a lot healthier, and no club doesn't have injuries, do they? So it's not you can always speak in ideal terms, but I do agree with that point with Denzel. I think that right side probably still needs a little bit of pace in it somewhere, even if that comes from the kind of right-sided central midfield position.
Yeah, and over on the other side, King Charles Spaniel with a point. He says, I'd like to see Ridvan and Jeffrey play together. We've seen it against Spurs. It was a bit of a surprise at the time to see that, but it was a bit of a surprise as well to see Jeffrey at left back and Ridvan further up. But the manager did say in his post-match press conference after that game that it's something he may look to do in the future as well. I would see it against Dundee. I would, I was going to say that we may see it at Old Trafford against Man United. Yeah. Perhaps that might make it the ideal game for that, Joshua, but I don't think we'll see it tomorrow.
Yeah, again, I'm not absolutely mad on it, because I think that, like Sterling, you want your left backs playing at left back, and you want to get out. And he's not had much of an option because of injuries to play square pegs and round holes, Derek, but still, I think if you're looking at Ridvan's development and eventual sell-on value, he's going to make you more money as a left back than a left winger. So if it's once in a while, then that's probably fine. I think the time to do it was at half-time at the weekend, because I think Chefty was left a little bit exposed on a yellow card at the start of that second half as the game sped up. And I think Nicholas Kuhn had six dribbles in the first half and only one was successful. Jeffy picks up that yellow card in 44 minutes, and then Nicholas Kuhn had 3 successful dribbles out of 3 in the first 15 minutes of the second half. And Celtic didn't score down that side, but they I think they earned the first corner of the game that they equalised from down that side, kind of turned the screw and up the tempo of the game. The Clermont would obviously turn around as understandably and say, well, Rangers still had that 4v1 opportunity at 1-0 that would have justified him keeping his team the same. But I think if you're being critical, that was maybe the time to go with Ridvan and Shefty. So I don't expect to see it tomorrow. The quicker Rangers can get Cortez in there, the better. But listen to Stevie and Johnny speaking after the B team game, and I thought Stevie made a great point about Cortez in relation to Nico Rask. And if you think about it, Cortez, give or take, has been out for 6-7 months. Like, he's been back, but he spent most of the last 6-7 months either injured or coming back from injury. And I think the only way that Rangers are going to kind of see the best of him is if they do that process slowly. In the past, he's come back into the team relatively quickly. And actually, before he came to the club in January, Derek, he hadn't played much football in the first half of the season at all. So I'd like to see him start to get minutes here and there. But I'd be surprised, for example, if you see him starting at Ibrox tomorrow. I don't think that will happen.
No, I would like to see him feature from the bench if Rangers can get the game on. There's a few comments for coming in there. Get the subs on. Get some of the young lads on as well. I want to see it more of the youngsters getting an opportunity. Let's move on to Ianis Hagi's dad, the legendary Georgie Hagi. He says he's going to be coming over to watch over the festive period and insisted that Ianis is happier than ever. He says, I'm going over to Scotland soon. I will go and stay with Ianis. I know he's very happy at the moment with the situation at Rangers. He's worked very hard because he's a boy who's dedicated himself to football, and football has rewarded him too. So I know he's very content where he is at the moment, and he's in a good place. I'm looking forward to watching him in action again, which is good news. I seen a report yesterday from an Italian journalist, Joshua, that Genoa apparently keeping tabs on Ianis Hagi, said to be keen on him. We know that Fiorentina were keen on him in the summertime, but he stayed at Rangers, and he's really doing well at the moment. I thought he was good on Sunday. He was everywhere, and very unfortunate to be not on the winning team. But yeah, I think he's one of the comments came in a few minutes ago, says he's one of the first names in the team sheet. I would tend to agree. I think he's been a breath of fresh air since he was reintegrated into the squad. I just wish that contract situation could have been sorted at the start of the season. But yeah, long may it continue, Joshua.
Yeah, I think he'll start tomorrow in that left-sided position, probably, because he's not a winger, but he's probably more natural out there than Bayrami. And the point I always go back to with Hagi out there is that I think in a game like the weekend, there's probably a little bit more value in Rangers getting another like physical profile in the final third because of the type of football they're playing. But because Hagi in a game like this can cross on his left or right foot, I think that gives you a little bit more than Bayrami out there, who is always trying to cut inside and doesn't ever really want to go to the byline. So I agree. There's some players that I think they're just really well liked, and Hagi is one of those players. And that it doesn't hurt Clement hasn't hurted Clement to have a player like that in the starting 11. It's been so long, and his Rangers career's always kind of felt. I don't know what you think, but his Rangers career's always kind of felt a little bit like unfulfilled to a degree, because he arrived, he had a few big moments, and then he had that 55 season where he wasn't the best player in the team, but he contributed pretty significantly. And since then, through a variety of different circumstances, he's really never played consistently for the team again. So I'm like you. I'd like to see him staying there at the moment. And the best thing that Rangers have is they actually have options, Derek. Because you see, if we were having this conversation before Dundee United at home, a month and a half ago, you'd have been able to maybe not pick the starting 11 exactly, but give or take, you'd have known roughly who's playing because of the lack of options that Clement had. And now at least he has a few options to mull over, and one of those is the likes of Hagi or Bayrami, and who'd you play at number 10, and just stick with that shape that you have had over the last few weeks. It's worked pretty well. So I think I'm going tomorroh Hagi, Danilo and Egaman, Czerny on the right probably, Diomande, Raskin, and a back four of, I will say, Tavernier, Balogun, Proper, and Chefty. I think you might see Sterling come in for one of the away games against St Mirren or Motherwell. Do you disagree with me?
I would like to see Sterling start if he's fit enough. I don't think Tavernier is going to be dropped, so I'd have him at centre half. Robin Proper's, I think, of the two, Balogun or a Proper against teams like Dundee, Balogun would be, I'd imagine, the majority's of Rangers fans' option to start at centre back. But I think Robin Proper had acquitted himself well recently against Spurs, and also against Celtic, especially that second half. I was a tad concerned on him being exposed at times as Celtic progressed down their right-hand side. But I thought second half he was terrific for Rangers, and obviously extra time as well. But I think he's got decisions, the manager, tomorrow. We'll end on this, just on Hagi. Stephen with the point says, if the impact Hagi has made since coming back into the squad, if an offer came in January, would you take it? It would have to be a real substantial bit of cash for me to take it and say goodbye to Ianis Hagi, Joshua. I'm not too sure what his valuation would be at this point in time, but I don't want him to be sold job lot fashion as a number of players were in the summertime.
Yeah, I guess it's one of these conversations of like, is he worth more to you than what teams would pay at the moment? And the answer, I think, is probably yes. There's also intangibles within that. I think if you look at that Rangers squad at the moment, Hagi's 25 or 26, so he's maybe not quite a senior player, but he is someone, I think, who understands all the kind of cliche stuff, that understands the club and can resonate with the fans. And there's value in that. There is value in that, having players in the squad who really, I think with Hagi, you sense that he really does want to. There was all the stuff over summer. It wasn't a one-sided thing. It wasn't as if he wasn't, he spoke openly about the potential of going to another club. But again, I think you can understand from his point of view, he's needed consistency. He's needed game time. He's had that injury. he's had a difficult loan spell, and he is someone who I think there's like an authenticity to the way he plays. Is that am I being too romantic? Do you know what I mean?
In hindsight, Johnny said the other day there, in hindsight, I don't think Rangers should have punted about on loan to Alaves. Of course, Michael Beale was in charge at the time, but in hindsight, I'd have been keeping them around. But there you go.
I think that was also part of that situation was to do with this contract situation that held things up in the summer as well, and there was an agreement there on both sides. That made that possible. So yes, it's just been a long time since you've seen him play games consistently, and probably able to just worry about playing for Rangers. And he's not a perfect player. Although something that has stood out to me a little bit, Derek, is I think I don't know if this is just like I have a bad memory, which is entirely possible, but to me, Hagi doesn't look. His strength is never going to be his pace off the ball. That's never going to be the best part of his game. And I'd be interested to see what other people think about this at the moment. But I don't think you've seen a massive regression with that bad knee injury. That physically, I think he's actually matured a little bit off the ball as well. And that role he played off the left hand side on Sunday, while there was a couple of occasions up against a quick player in Alistair Johnson, where I think he maybe didn't protect Chefty enough at the start of the second half. Over the course, I don't think he was really exposed. Is that? Do you think that's fair? Or
yeah. Like I said, I thought he was everywhere on Sunday. Worked his socks off, which is not something you generally tend to say about Ianis Hagi. But he really was. It was really a performance full of industry and endeavour. So yeah, I'd imagine he'll be starting tomorrow. He provides Rangers with creativity and a little bit of spark that they need, especially against teams that are going to come up against tomorrow, who are going to be camped in. You'd imagine Tony Docherty will try and make it as difficult as possible for Rangers. So guys like that, really, for me, are crucial to have in the side. But we'll wrap up there for now. As we mentioned earlier, it is press conference day. We will hear from Philip Clement and whatever Rangers player is put up for the press. That press conference taking place kicking off at 1:15. We should hear from a player in Clement around about 1:45. So keep your eyes peeled to the socials and to the YouTube channel and the website, folks, for all the latest news to come out from that. Right, thank you to you all for tuning in. Big thanks to Joshua as ever, and we'll speak to you a little later on. Bye for now.